Fourth grade, lesson 4.3 is interpreting the remainder. So we've talked about the remainder in a problem, and it's important to know what does that remainder represent, because in a real life situation, if that remainder were people, we weren't going to cut them in half or something. So we can't split them evenly amongst everybody. So it is important to know what is that remainder referring to and how do I adjust whatever problem I'm working on to handle that remainder. So that's what this lesson talks to us about. Let's have a look. Okay, our first problem. Magda has some leftover wallpaper, 73 inches long. She wants to cut it into 8 pieces to use around the photos in her scrapbook. Each piece will have equal length. How long will each piece be? How long will each piece be is the question. We're dealing with 73 inches long is the entire thing. She is cutting it into 8 pieces, and remember she wanted them to be equal in length. So she is sharing into 8 equal pieces. And anytime you're splitting something equally into an amount of pieces, that we now know is division. When you solve a division problem with a remainder, the way you interpret the remainder depends on the situation and the question. So that's just something we always have to keep in mind. We're talking about wallpaper here, so we'll look at the wallpaper. We're going to write the remainder as a fraction when we're done, and so let's go ahead and work this through. The divisor is how many pieces? 8 pieces. And remember, a divisor would be the part that is on the outside of the door if you're doing it this way, or divisor is, when you write it this way, the second number. Okay. And the wallpaper is 73 inches. That's the dividend, I think is what they want there. Dividend. Doesn't fit, but okay. And that's the amount that goes, that's being split up. So in either of these scenarios, that's where the dividend goes. Whatever's being split up goes inside the house, or it's the first number here. It's 73 that's being divided up into 8 equal pieces. 73 that's being divided up into 8 equal pieces. And we would divide to find the quotient. Well, if you know your math facts through your 9s really well, then you know that 8 times 9 is 72. 8 times 9 is 72. And we would subtract to find that leftover amount. There's 1 left. So we have the remainder of 1. And when we write this as a fraction, the remainder as a fraction, it's really pretty easy. Your remainder becomes your numerator, the top number of the fraction. The remainder is the numerator. And the divisor, 8, whatever the divisor is, becomes your denominator. So to write this as a fraction, it will look like this, 1 out of 8, because there was 1 out of the 8 left over. So it would be 9 pieces is what she'll get. Oops, you can't see that very well. Sorry, 9 pieces and 1 out of 8 pieces left. So we would write the quotient with the remainder. Write the quotient with the remainder written as a fraction. 9 and 1 out of 8 extra. So each piece will be 9 inches long, and I'll have a little extra left over, not enough to make another 9 inches long. Let's try this. Daniel made 32 ounces of soup for 5 people. How many ounces will each person get? Complete the division. So what's being divided up? The soup is 32 ounces of soup being divided up. 32 ounces of soup being divided up into how many equal pieces is it being divided up? Well, 5 people are sharing it, so we split it into 5 equal pieces. 5 times 6 is 30, and there will be 2 parts left over, 2 out of the 5. So we have 6 ounces is how much everybody will get. 6 ounces is what everybody gets, with 2 people out of the 5 getting a little extra if they decide to do that, or maybe they go and give it to somebody on the street. I don't know what they do with the extra, but there's not enough for all 5 to get another ounce. So everybody gets 6 ounces, and then they can fight over who gets the 2 ounces that are left. Let's see, there's another way. Use only the quotient. Okay, let's see. Ben is a tour guide at a glassblowing studio. He can take no more than 7 people at a time on a tour. If 80 people want to see the glassblowing demonstration, how many groups of 7 people will Ben show around? First, we need to divide to find the quotient and the remainder. So we'll do that first. What is the amount that's being split up? It's the 80 people that are being split up. 80 people are being split up. And how many groups are the 80 people being split up into? 7 people at a time. So only 7 people at a time can go. And so this is how many people in the group. This is how many people total. And so this is how many trips they will need to take. It's important to know what each of these numbers represent so you can figure out what to do with the remainder. All right. Well, 7 times 10 is 70, so it is going to be more than that. I'm going to take that 0 off of there for a moment because just like with the multiplication, I can kind of ignore something for a moment, and I'm just going to do how many 7s fit into 7D. Well, 10 times 7 is 7D. So I'm going to do this here. Like that. Now I'm going to do 7 into 10. Well, 7 only goes into 10. If I count by 7, I only go into 10 once. And that gives me 7. 7 times 1 is 7. Give me the remainder, and there it is. So they've got to make 11 trips, but these are now how many people didn't get to go yet. These people didn't get to go yet. So are they just out of luck? Like, oh, we're only making 11 trips. Sorry, you 3. You can't go, right? So what do we do about this issue? All right, so our quotient, let's take us through over here. Our quotient is 11 with a remainder of 3. That's what they want there. Ben can give 7 tours at a time, 7 people a tour at a time. The quotient is the number of tour groups of exactly 7 people he can show around. So Ben gives tours to 11 groups that have 7 people in it. And then they say add 1 to the quotient. What they're meaning here is if Ben gives tours to all 80 people, if he's not going to leave these 3 people out, how many tours is he really going to have to give? He's giving these 11 tours that have 7 people in it, but is he going to leave them out, or is he going to go ahead and give 1 more tour? So that's what they mean by add 1 there, is he's going to give another tour. Maybe it just has a few people in it, but he's going to give the other tour. He's not going to leave them out. So to show all 80 people around, Ben will have to give 1 more tour. So in reality, he's got to give 12 tours. So how do you know whether you need to add something onto that quotient or not? It's just knowing what's happening and reasoning it out. There's some reasoning skill that needs to go on there. And then using only the remainder here, Ben gives tours to all 80 people. After he completes the tours for the groups of 7 people, how many people are in his last tour? Well, the remainder is 3, so Ben's last tour will have 3 people. So again, all this section is doing is just helping you recognize, like, okay, yes, I'm dividing. This is what's being split up, but what is the story? What's being shared? And into how many groups is it being shared? And what does this number mean? And what does this number mean? So it depends on the story. And so sometimes it means I've got to make an adjustment. I'm not going to leave these guys like, sorry, you're getting left behind, right? I'm going to include them. So I'll add another tour to it. Let's have a look at this one. Students are driven to soccer games in vans. Each van holds 9 students. How many vans are needed for 31 students? All right, let's ask ourselves before we even look at any of this. Don't look at any of that yet. What is the item that's being split up? 31 students are being split up, right? There's 31 students and we've got to get them there. So 31 students are what's being split up. It either can be written that way or it can be written 31 are split into. And we know that each van holds 9 students, so we can split them into groups of 9, like that. Either way, that can be written. This is 31 split into 9 equal amounts, 31 split into 9 equal amounts. And in this algorithm here, 31 is the kids. Okay. 9 is how many in a van. We'll just put kids in a van there. How many kids in van? The most they can fit. And so this number is going to represent how many vans? All right, let's go ahead and do the calculation. 9 times what number gets me as close to 31 as possible without going over? 9 times 3 is 27, and 9 times 4 is 36, which is over. So I'm doing 9 times 3 to get 27. We subtract to find the what's left over, and that gives us 4. Okay, we have to ask ourselves, what does this number represent? So these were kids in the van. I need 3 vans, and that 3 vans with 9 kids in it, but I'm going to have 4 kids left over. These are kids not in a van if I only do 3 vans. Or am I not? Now we have to ask ourselves, am I not taking them? Am I leaving them behind? Or am I taking a van and cutting it into a partial piece that just fits 4 and then leaving the other half of the van? Like, that's not reasonable, right? You don't do that. And you're not leaving 4 behind. So then we ask ourselves, okay, well, what's my solution to this problem? If I take 3 vans, 4 kids are getting left behind. Oh, fine, I'll just take another van with us so that the extra could fit. So what this section is, or this lesson is talking about, is just think about what all of these numbers represent and how you solve that extra remainder, whatever's left over. Is it something to worry about, or is it not something to worry about? So we divided 31 divided by 9, and we got 3, which represented the vans. And there were 4 students left over. So we're going to make sure to take them. So we're going to need 4 vans in order to carry all 31 students and not leave anybody behind. That's what this is all about. Let's look at share and show number 1. And if you want to try it and pause and see if you can get it, go ahead. Olivia baked 53 mini loaves of banana bread to be sliced for snacks at a craft fair. She will place an equal number of loaves in 6 different locations. How many loaves will be at each location? Underline my question. And they say go ahead and divide to find the quotient and remainder. They set it up for us, but I'm going to take you through real quick. What's being split up? The 53 mini loaves. So we put that in the house. Into how many pieces is it being split up? She's putting them in 6 different locations, into 6 different groups. Okay. So let's identify what these are so our brain knows exactly what's going on. The dividend in here is the loaves. And the divisor here is the places, the locations that it's going to. All right, let's let our multiplication skills help us solve this quotient. To divide to find the quotient, the answer to division problem, and the remainder. I need 6 times something that gets me as close as possible to 53 without going over. Okay. Well, 6 times 6 is 36, so it's higher than that. 6 times 7 is 42, higher than that. 6 times 8 is 48. 6 times 9 is 54. Oh, 54 is barely too high, so I can't use 9. 6 times 9 is 54. That's too high. So I've got to use 6 times 8, which is 48. See how those multiplication facts help us do any division we need to do? I need to subtract to find how much my remainder is. So 3 take away 8 can't be done. Good thing we're good at doing our borrowing now. 13 take away 8 is 5, and 4 minus 4 is nothing. So I have a remainder of 5. And let's think about what that represents. This was 53 loaves of bread split out equally to 6 locations. So every location got 8 loaves, but there were 5 loaves left and I couldn't split them equally amongst the 6. So decide how to use the quotient and remainder to answer the question. Well, I have 8 with a remainder of 5. How do we want to split that up? Do we want to say, well, out of those 6 locations, 5 of them can have 9? So we'll just say 8, and 5 out of the 6 locations, 5 out of the 6 locations maybe can have an extra 1 or something like that. Or maybe I take those 5 home and eat them myself. Depends on what kind of pumpkin or what kind of mini loaves. Oh, it's banana bread. Yeah, banana bread's gone home with me. I'll take those extra 5 home if they want to be even. Question number 2 is a build off of the last question. What if Olivia wants to put only whole loaves at each location and not slice them up? How many loaves will be at each location? Only 8 will be at each location, and then I don't know what she's going to do with those 5 extra loaves, whatever she decides to do with them, if she's trying to keep them equal. Otherwise, she's got 9 loaves at 5 locations and 8 loaves at the 6th location. I'm not sure what they want as the answer there, but there's options. It depends on what Olivia wants to do. If it's real important for her to be fair, then just the 8 loaves go to each location, and I don't know what she does with the other 5 loaves. Okay, the last share and show. Well, let's try this one. Go ahead and pause it if you think that you can work it through, and then push play if you get stuck, or if you get the answer, we can check them together. Ed carves 22 small wooden animals to sell at the craft fair. He displays them in rows with 4 animals in a row. How many animals will not be in equal rows? Oh, okay, interesting question. How many animals will not be in equal rows? All right, what's being split into rows? 22 small wooden animals. Okay. And how many in a row? There's 4 in a row. Okay, so split it into 4 in a row. So this is going to be how many rows there are. There's 4 animals in each row, and there's a total of 22 wooden animals. That's what each of these represent. Let's find our quotient, answer to the division problem, the splitting it up. Let's use our multiplication. 4 times what number gives us as close to 22 as possible without going over? Well, 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 6 is 24, which is too high, so I've got to use the 5. That gives me 20 with 2 left over. Okay, let's refresh our memory. So we have a 5 remainder 2, right? Or we could write that as 5 and 2 out of 4 left over. All right, let's refresh our memory so we can identify what the remainder is. I have these total animals. They are split into 5 rows with 4 animals in each row. And when I did that, 2 of the little animals were left over. Wooden animals, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a picture for your brain to make the connection. There's those nice rows, but 2 were left over. How many animals will not be in equal rows? 2 animals will not be in equal rows. So 2 animals not in equal rows. The rest of the animals are in equal rows, but these 2 little guys are not. So that's all it is just getting familiar with everything that it means and doing the division and being comfortable with your division. I think you're okay to go on Think Central, but we can practice more if you need it.